Happy Easter. I hope that you and your family are enjoying a sweet Easter morning, full of like fun breakfast foods and Easter baskets and sweet songs. Um, my name is Wendy, and I am a Muncie member. And I've been asked to share a little bit about what God is teaching me about Easter and how He's really helping me to better understand His grace. Um, I have definitely not arrived, and I'm not um, the most uh, accomplished teacher or thinker or even disciple, but I'm growing. And I'm honored that Doug and Michael have asked me to share a little bit of my reflections on Easter today. Um, for me, Easter has always been part of my life. Um, I remember from when I was little that it was a day of joy. Um, some things I remember about some of my first Easters were like dressing up in outfits that my mom or grandmom had made, and they would have puff sleeves and beautiful lace, and we would wear Easter bonnets. Um, I remember we would wake up and on our bedroom, like on our dining room table would be Easter baskets, one for each of the kids in the family, full of like candy and usually one really big chocolate bunny. I remember going to my local church that I had grown up in and singing specific songs every Easter, like Because He Lives. Or I remember one Easter we sang The Old Rugged Cross, and I remember a man across the aisle with tears streaming down his face as he sang, this hymn of the faith. Um, Easter's always been part of my life. Uh, I can't remember a year where I didn't talk about the cross or the resurrection or just talk about Jesus. It's a big day. Um, but, just because there's a lot of talk about it, his death, his resurrection, it doesn't mean that I I got it all clear cut and like totally understood in my mind and in my heart. Sometimes it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around what happens, what we've celebrated for 2,000 years. Um, like I still kind of grapple with the mystery of it, of this whole experience is. As a young girl, I remember knowing that Jesus offered a lot on the cross. You know, for me, one of my favorite parts of the Easter story is when Jesus is on the cross and he speaks to the criminal next to him. And the criminal asks Jesus, "Will you remember me?" And Jesus says, "Today, you will be with me in paradise." I really like this about Jesus. At his greatest moment of stress, of pain, of isolation, he finds a way to offer a future and a hope to this man who just hangs there alone and afraid. And it's not just any future that he offers this man. He offers him a future where Jesus himself will be with him. Huh. That's the Jesus of Easter I really resonate with. As I've entered adulthood, I realize that Jesus and the cross and the resurrection, those are countercultural ideas. They're controversial. They are moments in time that speak to eternity and to our everyday life. Maybe today you're like me. You've got some complex thoughts about Jesus, about the cross, about his empty tomb. Yeah, you're not alone. I'm with you. I don't fully understand it. You know, loads, loads of biblical scholars have contemplated the meaning of Jesus's final days. For me, I'm definitely a person who says we should learn as much as we can and in the same breath acknowledge we will never fully understand this powerful moment of Jesus's death and resurrection. But when we're humble enough to say, I don't fully understand this, that's when we're open enough and free enough to encounter the story with new eyes every single year. So this Easter, I really keep coming back to two passages that really resonate with me and where I am in my life. So the first one is the last thing Jesus says to his friends before he's betrayed. So in John 16:33, he says, I have told you all of this, that you may have peace. Here on earth, you will have many trials and troubles and sorrows, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So Jesus, right before this, tells his friends, I'm about to leave. He tells them he's going to send a spirit of comfort, a comforter to them. He tells them that they are going to be overwhelmed with sadness. He's like totally telling them what the next few days will hold. He tells them even, listen, we're going to be disunified. He tells them in simple language what will happen to their band of friends in the coming hours and days. He knows what's about to happen. He knows the torture and the betrayal, and that the cross itself is coming. And yet, he speaks these words: you can have peace in me. He says, you will have trials and sorrows. He says, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So he knows what's about to go down. He knows people are going to betray him. People that he's talking to. You know what I mean? Like he knows that he will be crucified by the Roman Empire, that he'll be betrayed by his own faith system, the leaders of the Jewish community. He knows. And he's preparing them for this brutal life. And yet he says, you can have peace with me. Take heart. I've overcome the world. Wow. What a conversation to have with those you love right before the defeats and the heartaches. So right after he says this, the Easter story unwinds. The garden, the kiss, the betrayal, the trials, the torture, the long walk to the cross, the nails, the isolation, the taunting, the grieving, the darkness. 3 days in the ground. He had said it. They would have trials and sorrows. But in these passages, I don't see the peace. I don't. I don't see the take heart. I definitely don't see him taking over the world. So why does he leave his disciples with this line? Why does he honestly tell them that they will have troubles, but that through him, somehow they're going to have peace? Sounds a little, I'm not sure. Another passage that keeps coming to my mind is the last thing that Jesus says to his best friends before he ascends away from the earth. So he dies, he resurrects, and then he has these few days to make things right with his best friends. And then he leaves. He just goes up into the clouds. So this is what he says. The last thing he says, and this is Matthew 28, the last part of verse 20. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So, after the trials and the sorrows, after the hope of the resurrection, after the reconciliation with him and his friends, he makes things right and he gives them final instructions on what to do. And he ends with, I am with you always, even to the end. I can't wrap my brain around that one either. He's leaving. How can he be with them always? So I don't know what your current reality looks like. As a global community, we're beginning our second year of pandemic life. As a church community, this has been a painful year of loss and struggle. As a nation, we see so much despair and division. In my work as a high school teacher, I see teenagers who are isolated and struggling. In my own family, I see people I dearly love grappling with uncertainty. Like Jesus said to his best friends, and maybe to us, you will have trials and sorrows. I know I do. I know that the people I love do. I know that our world has troubles. So this Easter, to me, Jesus's words and his actions of Easter give me hope. And I don't know how it fully works, but I know that Jesus says, no matter how dark the trial, Jesus says I can have peace with him, in him, now, in this moment. That doesn't mean there's not going to be hard times. Even Jesus himself was in the grave for 3 days before the resurrection. It doesn't mean that there won't be dark and terrifying times in our own stories. But Jesus' life and words give me hope that it doesn't end there. Take heart, he says. I have overcome the world. It's like he's saying, I'm bigger than that dark moment you're walking through. So, how can this be? How can Jesus be bigger than the trials and the sorrows that we face? Maybe there's a hint in the words he speaks to the criminal on the cross, or in his final words to his best friends. He says, You're with me, and I'm with you in this, even to the end. To me, the cross of Christ offers us hope and peace, even when the world gets hard. Jesus' life, death, and resurrection show us the trial, the trouble, the death are not the end. And even more, he is with us in the dark moments because he said he would be. What a beautiful Savior. So, as we close out our time together this morning, I would love to share a song that simply embodies the way I'm seeing Easter today. In this world, you will have troubles, but may the peace of Christ find you. And may you know that he is with you now and always. Happy Easter.
I know a place, a wonderful place, where accused and condemned find mercy and grace, where the wrongs we have done and the wrongs done to us are nailed there with him, there on the cross. At the cross, he died for my sin. At the cross, he gave his life again. I know a place, a wonderful place, where accused and condemned find mercy and grace, where the wrongs we have done and the wrongs done to us are nailed there with him, there on the cross, are nailed